Today I'm here to get you that Scrum Master job and ace your interview. These are the top 20 questions and answers you might get in a job interview for a Scrum Master. This is part one, a two-part series. If you like this content, please like this video, please subscribe on YouTube. Let's just get started. Let's get into this. Here are the top 20 Scrum Master interview questions, part one. There's a lot of content in here, but I want to prepare all of you for your Scrum Master interviews. And these questions are all important to understand. And how this is going to work is I'm going to go through these slides. I do have the answers covered. You can pause the video for when you hear the question, and I highly recommend you put your own answer on the side or you type it and then resume the video to see how it compares. It's a good way to learn to see where there are gaps before the answer is displayed. It'll help you on your interviews as well. Think through the process. You can practice for those moments. The first question is, what is the role of a Scrum Master? Very basic question here, but could be the first question of the interview. Just giving a high-level overview of what the role does overall. Pause this video and resume it when you are ready and you have your answer written down or typed, or you discussed it, and then resume the video when you're ready to see the answer. And the answer is, the Scrum Master is responsible for facilitating the Scrum process. Remember, they're the servant leader. They're the leader within the team. It's going to remove impediments, making sure everybody is adhering to the Agile best practices. Doing Agile and being Agile is different. They want to make sure that you're being Agile, not just doing Agile, not just following some script. You're doing what works best for your team. And also that Scrum Master is that protector, making sure that the team is removed from impediments, maybe contact switching from the product owner or stakeholders, and making sure that team is continuously improving on their way of working. Question number 2. What are the key differences between Scrum and traditional project management? Again, pause the video here, jot down your answer, and then resume the video when you have already put down your thoughts on paper or type them up. And the answer is, Scrum is iterative and adaptive. Traditional project management is more sequential. A lot of upfront design, discovery, discussion before the work is started, and very sequential. Remember, Scrum is about flexibility and making sure there's the right level of planning, not all the planning upfront, to making sure that we're not having rework, we're reducing risk, having a little bit more flexibility. The teams are self-organizing and making sure we're delivering value in short iterations. Question number 3. How do you handle conflicts within a Scrum team? How do you handle conflicts within a Scrum team? You have to encourage your team to have open communication. Remember, everybody has different learning styles. Some people might be more introverted versus extroverted, and some people might be a little bit more reserved and maybe not communicate the thoughts and ideas as much as others. And we don't want those people dominating conversations, whether it's in a daily stand-up or sprint planning. We want to have everybody's input, and that's where the Scrum Master has to identify those moments, those different people. We're making sure we're pulling that information out. They have input into the plan or the way of working, and also facilitate conflicts. You don't want to let conflicts go by without being addressed, because they end up building up as longer they go. It's better to figure out a mutual agreeable solution between the team members. You can work better in the future and not have frustration over something that maybe isn't discussed or aligned on in advance. Question number 4. How do you measure the success of a Scrum team? Remember, in Agile, we deliver value and as fast as we can. The goal would be every iteration. Sometimes it doesn't occur that often, but we deliver value incrementally, and that's how we measure success. We also measure other items as well. And we have the principles, making sure people are following these principles, to have that mindset, to always be evolving, to always be retrospective, looking at the way they're working to improve. And then also customer satisfaction. There's no business without a customer. Delivering value and also understanding the customer satisfaction. Are they happy with these features? Is there room for improvement? We can feed back into the team to improve their working with this product or using this product, to provide value back to them to continue to use the same business. Question number 5, what is the purpose of a daily stand-up meeting? Daily stand-up promotes transparency and alignment. It's not a status meeting. This is often confused as a status meeting, but it's an alignment with the team. It's a quick sync, 15 minutes time box to ensure everybody's on the same page. The face-to-face interactions over tools, this is where you can get a lot of information out, have side discussions or create side discussions when you know everybody that is helping out or the stakeholders of this project could be there, to making sure you're getting questions answered, resolving and delivering those user stories, those values back to the customer. Also consider challenges. This is where the Scrum Master comes into play. What are your impediments? How can I help you? To ensure the team's committed work gets delivered by helping the team out of things that are causing extra time on their end to not get the work done, but these user stories or the value back to the customer. Question number 6, how do you handle a product owner who constantly changes requirements? This happens. Be prepared. It's dealing with expectations. Making sure the product owner understands how this impacts the team, showing the data back behind of reasons why you shouldn't do it. Number 1, contact switching. You lose efficiency through contact switching, and making sure that there's going to always be changes, but at least we're minimizing those changes to the team, to making sure we're working as efficiently as possible. Sitting down with that product owner and showing them that data, showing that how not doing this could improve the delivery of those requirements that are in the backlog, and working to product owner to figure out an action plan. How can they minimize that? What method or what type of event could we do with the team to making sure that this is minimized and reduced? Question number 7, how do you measure the team to maintain a sustainable pace? This is a marathon, not a sprint, except they're called sprints. Very confusing, I know. When you're sprinting, it makes it tough. If I was sprinting in a marathon, the marathon better be 3K, 5K, something short. A whole marathon, 20 plus miles, 26 miles, it's not sustainable. The idea here is, this is where the Scrum Master comes into play here. Identifying that burnout from those teams. People being absent, efficiency is reducing from the team, the communication might not be there, contribution to these meetings might be lacking. Maybe those things are burning out the team that can produce their best work and fast. And sort of making sure this doesn't happen is overcommitment, the sprint planning meetings, making sure that the team is not overcommitting based off of data. If your velocity is 50 story points and your team's committing to 75 or 100, and you have data from maybe 8 to 12 weeks, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Just reduce the sprint, making sure the team is not overcommitting and not burning out, making sure they have a healthy work-life balance. Because cognitive ability also reduces as well with burnout. Ensuring the team is fresh, making sure the team is not burning out is important to producing the value back to the customer. Question number 8, how do you handle incomplete user stories at the end of the sprint? So this is where, this happens a lot. overcommitment is usually the case in almost every team. Usually it's not undercommitment. And you're going to have incomplete stories at the end of the sprint. What would you do there is, first of all, get down to the root cause, especially if this was your current velocity, it was aligned with that capacity. And you wonder what's going on here. Was it overestimated? We didn't have an understanding of the requirements. And making sure that we're having those discussions up front. And maybe it's impediments, maybe it's unforeseen items. That's in the retrospective, we can catch it to fix it or figure out an action plan to do it. But in the end, if it doesn't get complete and you've done all those things that I just mentioned, that you work with the product owner to see, how does this fall in priority? Did things change since we know a little bit more? Maybe it's a high risk item, and making sure it's still a priority, and then add it to the next sprint. If it isn't, it goes into the backlog. Question 9, how do you handle a scope creep during a sprint? I know many people's burn down charts probably look like a ECG. Up and down, or maybe just up, maybe flat, maybe curving down at the last day. And how do you stop scope creep? Right? How do you handle that? It's in the category of understanding the situation and stakeholder alignment. Figuring out what user stories were added, why they were added, who added it, rationale, things like that I would kind of look into to just understand of, first of all, why did it happen and why was it needed now versus maybe another iteration. And I'd work with those stakeholders, whoever added them, whether it's a product owner, maybe it was a team, maybe it was a stakeholder, to understand that scope creep and understand if it's out of the team's capacity, since you don't want them to burn out. How do you negotiate where that fits into the current priorities? And saying, can it complete this sprint? Or yes, we can do it, but something else is gonna have to slip. What would you want to slip? And having that conversation, getting that alignment with the product owner and those stakeholders, thinking are important in that trade-off. What will slip? What would you want to add? And what will fall out of this sprint because of this addition? Question 10, how do you facilitate collaboration and self-organization within the team? The answer is, you encourage open communication. It's just one step saying encourage. We can say that, we can document it and share it with the team, but how do you facilitate that? I think the first thing is make sure that people trust each other. Having that foundation of trust, people are more likely to be open about communicating, even if it might be uneasy. Some kind of conflict management. Sometimes everybody has different ways to deal with it. This is a way to have that shared responsibility, participation by getting closer and having trust. Facilitating those ceremonies to promote that as well. If there's someone that's being very aggressive or someone that's taking the mic on a 15-minute daily stand-up and it's already been 10 minutes, you might want to interject. You might say, hey, there's other people in this meeting and it seems like your conversation is important, you're passionate about it. Can we take this as a parking lot discussion and continue the daily stand-up? And having those other people share their ideas, people that are not speaking up, or even ask them, hey, what's your opinion on this? Making sure before you move to the next topic instead of the loudest person. Very important, and that helps too with making sure the team understands the rules and boundaries within that team, and understanding how best they can work together with their skill sets and their strengths and weaknesses to make decisions collectively as a group. That was for part 1. I'll start part 2 series and give you the second 10 questions of this Scrum Master interview prep video.